the most talented wrestler you were ever in the ring with?
I would say Nick Bockwinkel, and a close second would be Bobby Orton Jr., and another close third would be Rick Steamboat. Another one who I never worked with, but I would have loved to, would be Jake Roberts. He was incredible in the ring. And then somewhere down the line, Ric Flair, the Nature Boy.
How far down the line is Ric Flair here? Or
You know, Rick was so, he was wrestling. I mean, he every bit of his life was geared about, what he was going to do and how he lived, and he fit perfectly into the wrestling profession. And, he was great. And it's funny because did you ever see the 30-30 on him?
I saw the 30-30. Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because I watched all that happen, and I watched him live that all out. And I remember Greg and I went to the opening here when they had it in Minneapolis, and they asked me a question after the show. And I said, you know what? I said, if Rick would have had to do it all over again, he wouldn't have changed the thing. He would have gone through the marriages and whatever else, because that's Rick.
With Rick, I might as well mention Rick a bit then.
Sure.
Was he in the camp the year after you were?
No, he was in our camp.
Yeah.
300 pounds he weighed.
Well, I was going to ask that, actually. Was he still in the Dusty Rhodes, I want to be the second coming of Dusty Rhodes mode at that point?
I think so. Yeah, he was, and he was so far ahead of us because he was born to be a wrestler. I mean, everything he did, and he was so far advanced, and he could do interviews, and he knew how to work, and he knew how to get heat, and he knew how to give a good comeback to a baby face. And I did 3 1-hour draws with him, and it was tiring. It was up and down for a long time.
With his cardio, that's one of the most famous things that's said about Ric Flair. Is it as true as it was back then, as it probably was in the 90s, that he was always on the stepper, he never went to bed, and he always seemed to have energy?
Yeah, he did. He could do that Stairmaster at level 10 for an hour, and he was in great shape. And then see, Rick was funny because when we go to the bars, he was the life of the party, but he'd order a drink and then he'd have a couple sips and put it down, and then he'd go to someplace else and order another round and then have a couple sips and put it down, and then he'd go someplace else, and then people would say, Jesus God, he's got to be drunk. But he only had a sip. He out of the 10 drinks he ordered, he probably only had 2. And that's the way he was.
Did I can't remember what else I was going to ask about Rick. It was good. Oh, that was it. It was when did Richard Flair become Ric Flair, do you think?
The minute he went into the Mid-Atlantic in Charlotte in 1973 or 4, I think it was 74.
What was the event then that changed it?
I just think he changed it to Ric Flair. It had the name right there, and Flair, I thought and then it was the Nature Boy, from Buddy Rogers, and the big $10,000 robes he'd wear, and just his deal. He was quite the personality.